put that right there. And I'm just going to start off by asking both of you to state your name and your date of birth.
Ronald Jardini, July 4th, 1951.
Anthony Putero, November 6th, 1951.
All right. Awesome. Can you tell me where you were born?
I can tell where both of us were born. We were born not too far from here, probably less than a quarter mile the way a crow flies.
Wow. Did you grow up in this area too?
Yeah.
Yes.
You ever lived anywhere else?
Me, no, not really. I went to college at Slippery Rock, so I was there for 4 years.
I have. I've lived in Pleasant Hills. We lived in New Jersey for a couple of years. Lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania for 5 years.
Yeah.
Live in Peters Township now.
Awesome. Cool. Can you tell me what your parents did for work?
My father was a bricklayer. He had his own small business, 2 employees, and they bricked homes as they were building new homes locally. And that's what he did his whole life.
Awesome.
My father was a shoemaker, and he had a shoe repair shop in Carrick, and eventually had 4 shops, him and my brother.
Did your mothers both care for the home, or did they work as well?
My mother pretty much stayed at home. She was a stay-at-home mom. She wanted to work. My dad didn't want her to work outside the home. But if there were times she'd work a year or 2. She was a cook in a restaurant. And actually, that was her job. As a cook in a restaurant, she did that maybe 2 or 3 different times.
My mom pretty much was a stay-at-home. She did work before I was born. World War II, she worked at the Heinz factory for a couple of years. But other than that, she was at home.
Did you have brothers and sisters, siblings?
I have one sister. She's 3.5 years younger than me. She lives in Florida now, but she has a house here in Pittsburgh also.
I have a sister who's 9 years older than I am, and I have a brother who's 16 years older than I am. And they both live in the area.
Were you close with them growing up?
My sister?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were very close. Still are.
Good.
My brother and sister are more like aunt and uncle to me.
Yeah.
To be honest. I mean, growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of elaborated on this a little bit already, but do you remember the house where you spent your childhood, and would you be able to describe it for us?
Oh, yeah. It was, my father actually, when he came home from World War II, he bought a lot, and then he was working for his dad as a bricklayer, and he did the excavating for the lot, for the house, and he did the block work and put the footers in, and then he wanted to get married, and married my mom, and got a mortgage and finished the rest of the house. So he kind of got set up young.
Yeah, wow.
He was a guy that planned. He was very planned oriented. You know,
Yeah.
he always had goals. And
Oh, that's awesome. Was it a big house?
no, 2-bedroom little ranch house. It's like I say, up right up the street here. I could describe it exactly if you wanted to know, but it's a very nice little brick house.
Yeah, if you could describe it for us, that'd be great. We like hearing about the little things like
Yeah, it
that.
had an integral garage and an average sized lot on a street that was, his house was one of the newer houses. It was built in 1949, I think. We started it in 1949. And when I was born, I lived in that house from day one. So, and 2 bedrooms. So when my sister, we were roommates there in that room for a couple of years, and then my dad made the basement into a room for me, and it was nice. You know, it was a basement, but it was a nice room down there. And so we each had our own room, and there's a little small backyard where we used to camp out there in the backyard as kids sometimes, and there's a little basketball court in the alley, a little basketball hoop that we put up in the back alley. And there were a lot of kids in that neighborhood. And my house was, I won't say like the center point, but it seemed like we met there a lot. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And
I would say.
something when we'd all walk to school together. It was about a mile to walk to school. And I don't think I ever really walked alone to school too many times. You know, I was with Tony or 2 other good friends that were. Well, one of those 2 friends is dead, but we're still all friends. You know, it's nice.
And there's the older kids and younger kids. You know, you all walked, so you never know who you would run into.
True.
My house was pretty much the same bungalow. You know, everything pretty much on the first floor. There only was a first floor, I guess. And we had a pretty large basement because of that. And so my mom would move everything from the kitchen and so forth down into the basement during the summer months. And we kind of lived in the basement during the summer months. And then in fall, move everything upstairs, and we'd be on the first floor. That's sort of an Italian thing, I think. And like he said, you know, it was pretty. I mean, you felt very safe. You were gone all day, pretty much.
Yeah, there were a lot of children in the neighborhood. I think that really made our childhood special. I mean, I mentioned him and the other 2 guys because we were the same age and the same grade. But there were a lot of kids. There really were a lot of kids. I mean, you know, the Gallaghers lived and the Wozniaks and all them. They all had 2 and 3 kids. Muslins, Beavers.
Yeah.
Danny.
Awesome.
Yeah, there were a lot of kids, all within a few years, the same as us. There was always wiffle ball games and basketball games, pickup game. They weren't organized like now. That's a major change.
Yes, it is.
You could go out and play 7 days a week in the morning and in the afternoon in the summer, and meet up again in the evening. We stayed out a lot.
Yeah.
Did you like that spontaneous?
Fantastic. I mean, I just think it was so great for you too, because you would play games and there were no adults there to officiate, so you had to figure out how to do that yourself. You know, whenever dispute came along, you had to figure out, okay, what's going to happen here? How do we rule on this? And you figured it out. Whereas the kids today, you know, I don't think they have that because they don't do anything unless it's organized.
That's the nostalgia that I miss. I mean, I get really sad when I see all the kids. Seems like they have nothing to do. They don't, and there aren't as many. We had more population density. I mean, there were kids everywhere. I mean, you just don't see kids playing. Right up here in my backyard is a flat spot up in the woods. And we used to have pickup games there, softball and baseball. And when I bought this house, that field was completely overgrown with trees and brush. I mean, nobody played there anymore. And we stopped. The The landscape obviously was the same, but the watershed was different. There was actually water that ran down a little creek here in that woods over here. Right here in this valley here, as small as it is, there's a little trickle of water down there. You could turn over rocks and find a crayfish or salamanders. I think we killed them all. I didn't see any. I mean, you know, and the creek's dried up. They don't run anymore because I think they just overbuilt, and that water hits the roofs and it goes down the street and it goes down to the main stream. That's why we get flooding down there. And we didn't have flooding then. I don't think Sawmill Run ever flooded, did it? When we were kids.
No.
Never. They had to close the road sometimes. No.
You talked about being Italian. I saw your Italians sign on the door. Can you tell me a little bit about that part of your identity and how it's important to you?
Well, growing up, almost everybody I knew as a small child was an immigrant from Italy or Brazil. My dad was actually born in Brazil, but my bloodlines are all Italian, full-blooded Italian. My mother was Italian. They met here in this country, but they're from the same part of Italy, same southern part of Italy, my dad's family and my mother's family. And it was nice being Italian. I mean, it was, I thought it was, like they said they discriminated against Italians. I thought the Italians were the greatest people in the world. It didn't bother me. I didn't know any difference. It's kind of something I can laugh at now. I had no idea if people discriminated against Italians when I was little.
Yeah. My dad came here when he was 17, and he worked here for a few years, and then he went back to Italy and he married my mother. And my brother was conceived then. My dad came back here, and 4 years later, my mom came over with my brother. And my mom spoke broken English, and other kids would make fun of that. But you kind of, and I think at times I was ashamed sometimes, but not now.
Do either of you speak any Italian?
My dad was born in Brazil, and his first language, it was actually Italian, even though he came from Brazil, because they lived with all Italians down there. And then my dad, they kept him back in first grade because of the language problem. My dad did not want to be a Brazilian or be known as a Brazilian. He became a very good American. He fought in World War II. He didn't do much fighting, actually, but he was drafted during wartime and went to Europe. But he was proud of his heritage, believe me, but he was an American. He became more of an American than average American, I think,
When I was 5, my mom took me to Italy for 3 months. So by the time 3 months were over, I could speak pretty fluent Italian. But then I kind of lost that because I didn't have to use it. My mom could pretty much understand English pretty well. But she would speak and just flow into Italian right in the middle of a conversation. So I could understand it pretty well. Not as good now, though. But I did, and then, so I could understand it some, but not speak very well.
You guys mentioned a lot of games that you played. Did you have any favorites out of, you guys said, sounds like you guys played pretty much everything, but anything you guys preferred or feel like you did the most often?
Probably in elementary school, we probably played a lot of softball and wiffle ball and baseball. And then we both played high school football together. I I think
But
then
you
we
kinda
played a
did
lot
whatever
of
the
touch
season-
football on the streets, man. We
You
did do
pretty-
that. Huh?
Yeah, basketball season come and you play basketball and kind of went with the seasons.
You're right. Yeah, we did. Played them all. We play hockey. Ever.
No.
Need a little bit more equipment for that. Right. What was your first memory of school?
I remember kindergarten. I really do. I remember walking to kindergarten. And that's something else that I find. I mean, my mom walked me to school, I think, most of the time. And
Really?
then maybe on the way back, there'd be a couple of us kids, and we'd walk. And it was a mile walk. It wasn't short. Both ways. Uphill. No. But,
Well, he's right. I mean, we lived about a mile away from the school, and we were not allowed to bring a lunch, so we walked to school in the morning. We walked home for lunch, walked back to school, and then walked home after. So did a lot of walking.
did 4 miles a day
4
every
miles
day.
a day, and
Minimum.
And you got into all kinds of things doing that.
Yeah, it took forever to get home sometimes. We didn't get in any trouble.
Not really, no. We did once have a visit from the postal people because we mailed an umbrella.
It was like a big, major crime. They turned it into a major crime. I put an umbrella in a mailbox.
And there was one house along the way that had shutters, like big old wooden shutters, real ones that opened and closed. And sometimes we'd, slam those shut.
Stupid crimes.
Stupid
like
things, yeah, like that.
What kind of other stuff did you guys get into? Now I'm curious.
Actually, did we get in any trouble? I don't know. I was kind of like a more hyperactive kid in elementary school. I always was in trouble for not staying in my seat or doing things.
They had, you had grades, and then you also had check marks, like for, I don't know, staying in your seat or whatever, And I thought you got the record for the most number of check marks.
I did. Like 27 check marks. Everybody else would have 4 or 5. I mailed the umbrella. I probably closed the shutters.
Well, it was raining, and we kind of ruined the umbrella because we put it up against the curb and try to dam the water, that was running along the curb. And we kind of wrecked the umbrella, so what's the point of carrying it around? So didn't want to litter, right?
Guess not.
You said you did a lot of walking throughout the day, back and forth. Did you ever feel unsafe walking by yourselves?
No. Never. Never felt unsafe. Did you?
No, never. And when we got older, we used to hitchhike. I mean, the high school was 1.5 miles. We walked, but they had a cafeteria, so we didn't have to go home for lunch. But
Yeah, we didn't hitchhike home from school.
no, but other times.
Yeah, we hitchhiked to New York City. Didn't even tell our parents that we were leaving. He said he was staying at my house. I said he was staying at his house. We didn't realize it was going to take us 2 days to get back.
So you hitchhiked all the way to New York City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrying shopping bags, as was our luggage.
Wow.
What did y'all do when y'all got there?
Rented a room. No, we rented a room.
Did we rent a room?
Yes, we did.
I thought we
It was
stayed
a nice
on a
hotel.
bench in Rockefeller Center.
We did. When we first got there in the morning, we didn't want to spring for an extra day, so
we got a room.
We waited till 9 o'clock or something like that, and then we went and got a room in a nice hotel. It was very nice. We were with our shopping bags.
Did your
We
parents
stayed
find out?
right?
I told them years later.
But we hitchhiked there. We got there like maybe 4 or 5 in the morning. Slept on a bench. Stupid when I think about it now. How stupid can you be? But
It was easy to hitchhike then. People picked up
picked me
people,
up. Yeah.
especially young kids. But I mean, we didn't know there were perverts out there. If there were, we never saw any. I mean, really, it was never.
We got in a car at the entrance to Lincoln Tunnels. We were hitchhiking there because our ride left.
You're familiar with the Lincoln Tunnels in New York
Yeah.
City?
Okay, so we're
No.
standing there hitching, and this car comes up, and there's 4 guys in the car. And so they pick us up. Now, I sat in the front seat between 2 people, and he's in the back seat between 2 guys. And they drove us into town and then let us off there, and that's when we ended up on a bench.
They had
I
such
mean,
thick New York accents, we
yeah.
could hardly understand what they were talking
Right.
about. I mean, that was a long time ago, and the accents. I mean, there's still a New York accent,
Yeah, it was
but
pretty
it was very pronounced then. And they were from the Bowery, remember? Whatever the Bowery is, the east side of New York. That's where they dropped us off.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly
Bowery
which part we
Boys.
ended up in, but
Pretty sure.
How old were you when this happened?
We were in high school. We were
we just
16.
graduated.
Did we graduate?
Yeah, I think so. It was like right after graduation.
What
we
was
had
the,
we had to get back, but because we both were working, so
Yeah.
we left on Friday evening and came back Sunday morning. Got back, whatever time we got back on Sunday.
That was another nice thing about ours. Well, my dad, he had his own little business. Tony's dad too, but I always had a job, and I always had a little bit of money. He paid me, and everybody seemed to have jobs, didn't they? Davik had a job. He didn't he work some summers in the mill, even in
Yeah.
high school?
Well, not in high school, no.
No,
I don't think so.
he worked with his dad sometimes too. I don't know, but it seemed like a lot of us had jobs, doing something, cutting grass.
You had to work Saturdays, a lot of time after school. I'd stop. The shoe repair shop was right in Carrick, so we're right up actually up the top of the street. And I used to have to go there after school and on the weekends, unless I had some excuse. And I got paid, not a lot, but I got paid. And I hated it.
How old were you when you started working? When you first started?
My dad used to take me to jobs when I was probably in 5th grade. I mean, I didn't really do much. They were building homes in the suburbs. And I kind of enjoyed going to work with him. Sometimes I'd take my bicycle out there and ride around in the neighborhood where we were working. And I helped out a little bit. They'd be carrying bricks, and I'd stack up bricks for them, and then they used to carry a hod to carry the bricks, and I would load the hod, and these laborers would carry them up to the scaffold. Then when I got a little older, my job was to stay out of the way. And if I wanted to help carry bricks up to the scaffold, they had these little 50-pound boxes with nails came in.
Mm-hmm.
And you put 2 this way, 2 this way, 2 this way. So you get 6 or maybe 8 bricks, 6 bricks in there for sure. And that's the way the hod carried 18 brick, 2, 2, 2, 2, 9. And the hod carriers would carry them and stump them. Where my job was to stay out of the way and run up there with my 6 bricks, flip it over on top of the pile, and get out of everybody's way and do it again, It was kind of... I don't know. It was a good job for me.
I started there. He used to make me come there when I was maybe 10, and I started out just shining shoes, and then started to learn the different things that you needed to do, and eventually he had a shop downtown, and I used to go there to work sometimes. One thing that I remember is when I was 4 years old, we lived in a house off the main road there, and my mother, she walked me over and had me cross the street, and I was able to walk then up to my dad's shop. Didn't have to cross the street at all, just walk on the sidewalk. But 4 years old. And, you know, we used to, I can remember like 8 or 9 years old, 10 years old, we'd get on a bus and go into town, or a streetcar and go into town. And, you know, do whatever, shop or...
How old were we the first time we took a streetcar to Forbes Field to watch a Pirate game? Would you say it was third or fourth grade?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure.
By ourselves, yeah.
Yeah, go from here to Oakland on a streetcar, go to a game.
Yeah. Here's an interesting story, though. There's a lot of bars along our walk home, too. Some of them are closed now, but there was probably 6, 7 bars, would you say, from elementary school to home and go past. Of course, you weren't allowed in there, but the 1960 Pittsburgh Pirates, they won the World Series that year, and they had a really good team. But it was the 7th game. The Pirates were playing. It was at Forbes Field, 7th game of the World Series. And we're watching the game in school. About the 6th or 7th inning, school lets out. And we're trying to get home to watch the game because they were playing the New York Yankees. It was the 7th game of the World Series. The Yankees had a fabulous team. They had won several World Series in concession there. And so on the way home, I think it was just you and I. Mm-hmm. We'd stop at every bar. The game's on television and black and white TVs. Yes. And the bartender would say, "Get out of here, kids!" Remember the one guy comes out, he picks up his sword from the bar. "Get out of here!" We ran like up to the next bar, but the Pirates won that game in the 9th inning. And I know you heard of Bill Mazeroski. He's pretty bad. He hit the home run in that 9th inning of the game. And we were in a bar, and it was in color TV. They had a color TV there, 1960, and he hit the home run. It was really crazy, man. I mean, it was great celebration. They beat the Yankees and won the World Series. And color TVs were so good. The grass was blue. Remember? Watching it, the grass was blue in color TV. They couldn't get it right. But that was a fun day.
You guys talk about working for your fathers. What jobs did you have other than that or after that?
I always had a job, and my dad was kind of a rough boss. He was pretty strict. I mean, I worked. They kind of shut down in the winter. They couldn't do brickwork when it's below freezing, anyways. So I had jobs at Christmas time. At the mall, they had the little children's little amusement park there, and inside the mall, one of the first malls. I had a job to go out there and watch the little kids. You know, I had a paper route. I had 2 paper routes. I was fairly busy. I had delivered the newspaper. It was the afternoon paper. It was a nice route. Almost every house got a paper. I walked the whole full block. Almost every house got a newspaper.
He bought himself a brand new car.
I paid cash for my first car, yeah. With money I saved. Of course, it was only...
I worked the summers, a couple summers I worked laying asphalt for asphalt paving company. One summer I worked in the mill, J&L Steel. That was I worked one summer for the Soil Conservation Service. pretty much summers, different, whatever you could find.
Yeah, we did all have jobs. I mean, once we got out of high school. And jobs were kind of scarce then. Pittsburgh was losing population. That's why when we graduated from college, I majored in education, and there were no jobs. There were no jobs in Pittsburgh for school teachers. The school population was cutting back, and because so many people had moved away. And I know a lot of people I graduated with, they all moved to South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, where the fast-growing states were. Not West Virginia.
No. You said you went to Slippery Rock? Where did you go to school?
IUP.
Did you enjoy college?
Yeah. Did.
Yeah, I did too. High school is better though.
High school was great. I mean, it really was. It was a lot of fun. I was class president, and that helped me get. I mean, I was junior class president, and I guess some of these people that had companies, they would go to school. Hey, we want to hire a couple kids, and they might request, well, who was the class president? Because I get all these job offers. I didn't even apply for them, which was pretty cool. Made me feel pretty important. I didn't realize that till later when I got so many job offers. It's not, hey man.
Can you tell us about your work that you've done with the Hilltop Alliance?
The Cara Community Council is affiliated with them. So basically what I did with Cara Community Council was, I don't know, I had a business. My business became later when I quit nursing and I only taught school 1 year, and it was in a Catholic school. So I was lucky to get a job teaching. But the pay was terrible in a Catholic school. I attended bar 2 nights a week, and I made just as much money there as I did teaching all week. So, so what was the question? I lost
Any
my
work that
train.
you've done with the Hilltop Alliance or just with the
the
community in
Hilltop.
general?
Well, I love my community. I must say I'm very loyal to my community, and part of that has some things to do with the Vietnam War as far as I'm concerned, because during the Vietnam War I was protesting the war, and I was willing to go to jail rather than serve. And there were a lot of people like me. And then and a lot of my friends went to Vietnam, and I wrote them letters, and they knew my stand on it. And when they came back from the war, they were the guys that protested the war that really carried a lot of clout. I was nothing, but I did protest the war. And when they came back, I protested with them. They went to D.C. and marched. But my one friend who got injured over there, he had like 2 or 3 Purple Hearts, and he re-enlisted for a second tour of duty in Vietnam. You had to serve a minimum of 2 years, but if you signed up for an extra tour of duty, they let you out like 2 or 3 months early. He signed up for an extra tour in the battle zone to get out early, and luckily he survived. But he came back and he said to me, well, we were talking about the war. Believe me, he was my best friend. One of my best friends, and he still is. What's left of him? I mean, he's a cat. He's still, part of his branch still over there. He was in intense fighting, killed a lot of people, and I've heard some stories that were just awful. But he said to me, he says, well, what would you fight for? If you're not going to go to Vietnam, what would you fight for? And I remember then, I said, well, I'd fight for my community, but I'm not going to Asia to kill people I don't know. Same thing Muhammad Ali said. But in any case, that was an important time in our lives. I think the Vietnam War. I don't know if you were involved much in that peace movement. He went to a different school, but we saw as I went to IUP and visited him. He came to Slippery Rock a couple of times and visited me. And we saw each other in the summers, too. But that war had an impact on our generation a lot. I remember coming home from school, and we're up there at Phillips Park, and one of my friends, another friend, he was home. You got a 2-week leave. When you were in Vietnam, you get a 2-week leave, you could come home for 2 weeks or something. R&R, they call it. Rest and relaxation. AJ. And I know, I think he's heard this story before, but you might have even been there when we were talking, we were sitting here in the park, underage, we're drinking beer. AJ, that's his name, Andy Joe, he says, well, what'd you guys do last week? I said, well, we were up at school, playing a little basketball and this and that. What'd you do, AJ, in Vietnam? He goes, well, I had to jump out of an airplane, parachute down with my unit, and our job was to track enemy fire. And they had these maps. He says, then we had to, once we engaged in fire with the enemy, we know where the enemy is. We have to get to another quadrant. We have to get ourselves over here to be rescued while the B-52 bombers come in and drop bombs over there. So he goes, well, when we got to our quadrant, nobody came to rescue us, so we dug trenches. And then all night long, the gooks, we dug a trench, and there were gooks out, everything that moved, boom, 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 they were shooting all night. They couldn't sleep. And one of the gooks, that's what they called them, jumped into the thing and killed Sergeant Tommy or whatever. So they couldn't sleep. And in the morning they woke up and they found some dead bodies out there. And we cut off their heads and we stuck them on sticks. And I listened to this story. And I'm still, just thinking about it makes me cry, And so that was the war. And that was the difference between going to war and being there. I'm sure it wasn't like that every day, but and Andy Joe's still in the VA hospital to this day. He came back alive. He was injured, of course, a couple times, and then he had an abscess. He had something wrong with his ear, and he was misdiagnosed in the VA hospital. The VA hospitals weren't as good then as they are now, but he got a brain abscess then. It developed, and he's never been really right ever since that war. He was one of the most nicest kids you'd ever want to meet. He was just a little kid too, and that was the other thing. They liked to get you over there when you were still 17. That war was really, really bad.
Yeah, I was lucky. I didn't have to go.
We had the same deferment that Bill Clinton had. If you were in college, there was a 2-year period there. You didn't have to go.
Right.
So we were part of that deferment.
And then they had the lottery. So your birthday, they did a lottery, and if you were picked, your birthday was picked early, then you probably would go. But mine was like 200 and some.
Mine was
so I never had to go. So.
Mine was 59, and I if I would have sat out a semester, quit school, I would have been drafted. I had to go. I would have had to go. I mean, it wasn't like voluntary.
I wouldn't have the guts to do what you said you would do, is not go to jail. I couldn't do that probably. So I'd have gone, and I probably would either got shot, or I would have shot somebody that I shouldn't have. And the whole thought of it, walking through that swamps and all that, oh my God, I can't even imagine.
Well, that story that AJ told me, I heard some other stories almost as bad as that. I mean, I don't know if you'll hear them, but
Absolutely. We have no censorship with, so whatever you.
well, you don't have to write all these. I mean, don't make it.
No.
I don't want to know about. Want to be affiliated with those stores. Keep me anonymous on that aspect of the story, but
Hey, I remember we would take the bus, or streetcar, and if you were under 12, it was 10 cents. And if you were 12 or older, it was a quarter, 25 cents. And so my birthday was late in the year, so I always claimed to be, 11, so that I could go for 10 cents.
That's great.
And we used to take the bus here from on Bronzeville Road here, and we'd go to St. Wendland's, which was up on the hill, and we'd have to go there for Sunday school, and since we went to the public school, we had to go on Saturday mornings to catechism class, and sometimes we'd take the bus, or sometimes we'd walk, and sometimes we just wouldn't go. We'd go down to another friend's house and watch cartoons, like every kid should do on a Saturday morning. And I remember the one time I came home, and my mother's there, my sister, like, where were you? And I said, oh, I was in class, And they said, well, where really were you?
You mentioned feeling really passionately about the Vietnam War and being very active in your community when that happened. Are you active politically currently, or have you been since that time, as far as protests and stuff go?
yeah, I went to some civil rights demonstrations, and I went to anti-war demonstrations, of course, and now this stuff with ICE. I've been down there for a couple of demonstrations already. And I've actually tried to be more apathetic towards any cause, because it doesn't seem to make a difference. You get one vote. That's all the power an individual has. And so I see both sides of the issue. I know why we got into Vietnam. I mean, there's some justification for being there, maybe in the first place. That war dragged on, and we knew we were going to lose. I mean, they used to hold moratoriums, they were called, where you would educate. We'd go, like there'd be a protest. I don't think you took part of those things, but I did, and I would, we'd have different tables, and my cause was the only resistance you could do is not go. We weren't violent. It was peaceful demonstrations, nonviolent, and it'd be better to go to jail than it would be to run to Canada. A lot of people moved to Canada even, did the different things. But if you went to jail, at least you were taking up space at the government expense, and that would help. Don't work. Don't work. Don't pay taxes. And if you can get food stamps, get them. Anything to take away from tax money going to the war. And so that was our generation, man. And there were some people that hated us. We were the hippies. We were the pot smokers and the hippies, and part of that. My politics has changed a lot. I went to the Communist National Convention in New York City in 1972. I'm not a communist now. I'm really not. I think communism stinks. I've been to Cuba 5 times, and I see how.
I didn't know that. I never heard that before.
I went to Communist National Convention. Yeah, Angela Davis and Gus Hall were running for president. Actually, it was 1974. For sure, it was 1974. I hitchhiked up there to get to the convention. Angela Davis. You ever heard of Angela Davis?
I have to hear
She's
her
still
speak,
on. Is she still living
Yeah, she's a professor.
at UC Berkeley? I'll bet. I'll be down. She's older than me. I'm sure she's older than me.
She's
And Gus Hall was running for president. She was running for vice president.
Gus Hall.
That's awesome. All right. Can you tell us a little bit about how you met your wife? Both of you, if you're married as well.
I met my wife at college. I was in a fraternity there, and she was in a sorority, and we both groups were working on a float for homecoming, and that was part of it. Although I actually met her in the summer before that. I was working laying asphalt, and we were in a pizza restaurant at lunchtime, and the guys were, and I was kind of a shy person, and these guys were giving me the business. These guys I worked with, they were all older than me, and so I was the one who always got picked on, so this particular day they said, well, I bet you can't talk to the next girl walks into the shop. And so these two girls walked in, and one of them was my wife to be. And so I went over and I started talking to them because these guys egged me on. And that's how we actually met. However, the girl she was with was from Carrick, so I pretty much did most of my talking to her.
Who was that?
I don't remember now. To be
Okay.
honest, that's 50-some years ago. So.
Huh. Me, I married my high school sweetheart, and I was young. I was 7. When did I get married? When I was 18. Huh?
Yeah, I think so.
I married. Yeah, I was 18. She was 17. We were madly in love. That lasted a year and a half. And we're still friends, though.
Yeah, that's great.
And then I had a second wife. I have 2 children with her. And we're, I still see her, with the 2 kids. We get together. We were married 17 years together. And then I was single, and I moved into this house, and it was a house, but this building was an office for a coal mining company in the 1920s. And the entrance to the coal mine is right here, this back wall. You drive in from the front street through those big garage doors, and trucks used to back in here, and mules used to bring the coal out of this mine. They used to keep the coal. When I bought the house, there was a little shanty over there. That's where they kept the mules. And that mine's a big mine. It's a deep mine, not strip mining. And it goes. I had the map because my backyard keeps caving in places, and the state come out and they'll fill in the holes for you for free. And my driveway even collapsed over here, but the house was on solid ground. And, so then I met. I got divorced, and I moved into here and started working on this house. That's what I finally ended up doing for a living, was renovating houses. And Ema, I met her. She lived across the street, and her son was working for me. I met him before I met her.
Wow.
And I actually asked him if it was cool if I dated his mother.
That's awesome.
And he said, yeah. And so we've been married now. Well, we lived together for a while. We've been married only
What is it?
5 years, 7 years, I don't know.
Yeah, probably 7. maybe more.
Yeah, I threw a big
Goes.
party here. Didn't tell anybody it was going to be a wedding, but we had a big summer solstice party. It was a good party too, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden, a friend of mine was a reverend, and he did the thing. And we have a lot of solstice parties here, summer solstice parties. Invited the whole community practically. There was a lot of people here, a couple of parties.
How did you start doing that? And why the summer solstice?
It's political. It's well, I'm not religious at all. I'm not an atheist, but I just don't. So I like the solstice. Like it's a natural event. It's the longest day of the year, and there's a lot of people that think like me. Anyways, I'm really surprised to learn how few people are devoutly religious. Well, that's not why, but I like doing those things better than, even Christmas. Christmas, the winter solstice. We have a winter solstice party here, small gathering here most years. So that's how I met Ema, and we're pretty happy together. Her son has 2 children. They're my grandchildren, and my 2 daughters. We have one grandchild there, and she has a daughter. Ema has a daughter besides Michael, and she has 2 adopted children. So we have 4 boys and a girl, grandchildren, and it's a nice blended family. We have all the Christmas, Thanksgivings, parties here, gathered. Everybody's birthdays here. We have, it seems like every month. There's a big dinner here.
Do you have any children?
2, a boy and a girl. They each have 2 kids. My daughter has a daughter and a son, and my son has 2 sons. And in fact, that's why I have to leave, because we're going. 2 of the boys and my son are going to a baseball game.
Pirates.
Yeah, which if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't go otherwise. Put it that way. Too cold today.
That's true.
Anyway, my the oldest granddaughter is 17 years old. But it's the best. The grandkids are the best. The only reason to have kids is so you can have grandkids.
How did it feel to become a father?
Well, it was great. I'm real close with my daughters, like 2 daughters. We had adopted a child too, and he died of a drug overdose some years ago. Yeah, very sad. Very sad. He was born with some problems. I think maybe his biological mother that we adopted him from, and we had him since birth. She probably did drugs and alcohol while she was pregnant. And if you're in nursing, I'll tell you, that's one of my, I see a pregnant woman drinking, I'm going to say something. I will say something, I don't care who they are. I mean, John was a victim of bad motherhood, It was very sad. But, that's life.
Yeah. I sometimes I really also think that this neighborhood, it's kind of a shame where it's gone. Like we said when we were kids, it was very safe. This little, you see this little retail area that's up at the top of the street. There used to be, when we were kids, there were 2 shoe repair shops in there, in that area. There was a movie theater. There were two. There was two
Butcher stores.
butcher stores. Yeah, there were 3 bakeries. There were 3 supermarkets, and 2 hardware stores.
3, I can think.
Three. Okay, 3 hardware stores. I think there were 3 or 4 barber shops. It just was a bustling area, and now what's there?
Unfortunately, a lot of that's happened everywhere. It's because of the suburban sprawl, the interstate highway system. All these things contributed to these neighborhood declines. I mean, there was more business. If you ever got to Robinson Town Center, that wasn't there when we were kids. There's more business there than there is in all the city of Pittsburgh, in one mall. Everybody goes there. And I mean, it's unintended consequence of the interstate highway system and the fact that everybody has a car. I mean, everybody didn't have a car.
My mom never drove, never learned to drive. So if she'd go to the grocery store, she'd take a cart with her, shopping cart, and
Go up the street.
fill it up and walk home. Yeah.
My grandmother and his mother were very good friends. I mean, the whole family was, but they were a little closer. His mother was older. He was a change of life baby, if I may say. And but he was wanted. He was very much wanted. But they were good friends. And then we found out later, I didn't even realize this. I went back to Italy, to my family's hometown, and I'm down there in Melito, and he had given me the name of his town. And it's like a 2.5 hour drive to get there. It's like West Virginia down there. It's really hilly. It's there's parts of West Virginia just like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But when I got to his village, town, I go over to where the cemetery is, and there's a little overlook there, and I look over, and there was Melito. Not that, the way a crow flies, I'll bet it's not 2 miles, 3 miles. And it still was, I don't know, it was a long drive to get there. So my grandmother was from that village, and his mother was from that village. And that was an interesting.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that growing up. Did you know that growing up?
No.
I'm sure that your mother and my grandmother had to know that.
Probably, yeah. I would think so.
Yeah. And a lot of those towns, like they wanted their children to marry people from other places. It's like that inbreeding, like they say happens in West Virginia.
Yeah.
West by God, Virginia. That's where
That's true.
That's where they invented the toothbrush in West Virginia.
I didn't even know that.
Because it would have been called a teeth brush.
Can you guys just tell me how you feel your community has shaped you, and also how you've played a role in shaping your community?
Well, it was a happenstance. It was a great place to grow up. I'll say that again and again. I couldn't imagine. You should be jealous of me, because it was just perfect. I mean, this was. I got to show you a couple pictures.
Yeah.
I don't have any pictures of you as a kid. There's a couple pictures of us playing in the alley behind the house. There's a group picture there. I just think it's adorable. But I'll bring it up in a minute.
Yeah.
But so the community shaped me. I mean, I married my high school sweetheart, and I can go up. Everybody didn't move away. There were some jobs still in the mines and the steel mills and the factories, but they were pretty much shutting down by the time I graduated high school. But a lot of people are still there. I can go up to any of these bars that are still open, and almost always I know a couple people in there, if not everybody, and that's very nice. And that's why I haven't moved away. And a lot of people like Tony. You know, when I was complaining about things, you know, there's a drug overdose over here, there's a shooting there. I mean, I'm serious. Right across the street, never any of that stuff when I was growing up.
Your wife got shot.
Well, that was later. Yeah, that was my wife got shot in the driveway of her own house. That was about. Well, it was like 2001 in the year 2000, 25 years ago. It seems like it just happened.
In this neighborhood?
Yeah.
What was the reason? Like,
She was leaving at 5 in the morning to go to work. She was a nurse. About 5:30 in the morning. And our driveway was actually like an alley. Our house was the end of the alley. There was only like 4 houses in between. And somebody blocked her in. Somebody was parked there. So she wants to get to work. She starts beeping the horn. Meanwhile, there's a home invasion across the street, and they parked their car there. And it was over drugs. Police did a terrible investigation. They'd never found the person. And the guy, this was after we were divorced. I'll tell you how bad the investigation was. They didn't even question where I was. I was in the middle of a divorce with my wife, and I'm thinking, well, they're going to come ask me where I was.
wow.
I was in an airplane over the middle of the Pacific Ocean at the time. So I had a pretty good alibi. But nobody asked me where I was. That pissed me off, you know?
Wow.
But, and the guy, there were 2 guys. She's beeping the horn because she wants to get to work. Nobody ever blocked us in there. These neighbors, they know better. And the guy gets out of the car and shoots her 3 times. She's lucky she lived. One bullet, I don't know, like almost like a curve. It went here, kind of passed along her jaw and ripped her skin only. The other bullet went through her humerus, shattered the spine. She had to have like 4 operations to get it fixed. And the third bullet missed her. The guy was a bad shot. Shot through the glass. I mean, he didn't have to do that. So all he had to do was get in his car and leave. And she didn't pass out. She had her cell phone called for help. Meanwhile, my daughter's getting ready to go to school, and we're going to walk down there and find her mother shot up like that. And my other daughter was at school in Westchester, Pennsylvania, going to college. And when I landed in L.A. or wherever the hell I landed from a trip, or I was coming from Australia, and I got the news that she had been shot. And I went to Delta Airlines because I wanted my daughter in Philadelphia to get home. She didn't have a car or nothing. So they changed my flight to Philadelphia, and her and I got a flight back to Pittsburgh. And but that's the kind of shit that happens here that never happened when I was a kid. I mean, never happened. The other day we're picking up trash right down the street here. Right down the street. I didn't show you this. Did I send you pictures of this hypodermic needle?
No.
Here's a picture here. That's funny. This one just come up. This is 1954. But that's not Tony. That's my cousins and it's most of his friends. You see me in the middle there down low?
Yes.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you.
That's a birthday party. I'm the little guy in the front row there in the middle. That's kind of cool, I think. That's 1954. Oh, here's the one I wanted to find. I must have had this out not too long ago. That's us in the alley where we used to play basketball and things.
Oh.
Looks like the Bad News Bears, don't it? Did you see that one, Tony? I think I sent that to you. No? That's Donnie Borneman on the left.
Yeah.
And there's
okay.
Gary Borneman somewhere on the right there. And me. And then my cousin John.
Yeah, I see
And then there's
John.
2 other kids from Brentwood there. Because the border with Brentwood's right up here. That's a great picture.
It is
isn't
a great picture.
That's Gary Borneman there.
I'd say the community was great because of the fact that, you know, like I said before, you got to learn how to deal with people, a lot of different types of people. you know, we had all kinds of different people, especially in high school, and you know, you played ball a lot of times with no supervision, whether it was basketball or football or baseball or whatever. You know, you had to deal with some guys were boisterous, some weren't. You know, some always would, you know, try to get off on you. You know, like you're playing football and it's fourth down, and you knew this guy would always tell you, okay, it's third down. You know, and you'd have to fight with them to determine, well, okay, is it third down or fourth down? You know, and so you figure out how to deal with all that. And for me, it was very helpful in as an adult to have had those experiences, so that you could deal with people in the workplace that were
Learn how to
troublesome or whatever, you know.
We learned conflict resolution.
Yeah.
You know, firsthand. I mean, and I was in one fight my whole life. Tony was there, wasn't she? I fought John Carson.
Yeah.
One fight my whole life. And we weren't throwing punches either. We weren't. We were like almost wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't imagine punching somebody in the face. I don't think I could ever punch somebody in the face. You have to really be.
Let's see. You know, if you did get into a fight, it was just a fight. It wasn't. Now everybody's got a gun and they're pulling the gun, and it's just not the same at all.
Did you win the fight?
What's that?
Did you win the fight?
Yeah, I'm undefeated. Hoping you were asking that.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you guys talking with us so much. I know you have to get going, so
Okay.
a lot of questions I have.